There's something called the 55-38-7 formula. It's a formula that some researcher of like psychology and body language figured out years ago, and it's so important. I think it's more important for this generation, or I think it's more important for people now to know than ever before. Like, knowing this 50, 60 years ago might not have been that valuable, but today it's so valuable because of how people mostly communicate. So what it is only 7% of communication is through the words that we say. So if you're commenting on social media, if you're texting a friend, writing an email, that's only 7% of how humans actually communicate. 38% of how we communicate is through tone and the language. So words, then tone. So much more is how you say it than what you say. And people, I think that should resonate with people as they think back, I didn't mean it that way in text or something. And then 55% of how we communicate is through body language. So that's lost on phone calls, that's lost on emails, that's lost in text, all that. So the majority of how we communicate is through body language. I think that's why videos are so powerful, because you could see my body language, you could see my hand movements and the way I'm conveying myself, my posture, everything, every little movement. Your subconscious is picking up on that more than the words I'm saying. So the words I'm saying is only 7% of the message, 38% is the tone, and 55% is through body language. It's so profound. So I think where that comes into play the most is in more difficult conversations where people are most likely to send a text message. But it might actually be the time of your life where it's most important to take a ride to someone's house, to take a flight to a different city, to do something you wouldn't normally do, because of how profoundly important it is for you to be in person when you're having a conversation with someone. Just because that's how humans communicate. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it, and it's also how you look saying it. It can make the negotiation or the issue or the conversation go in such a different direction. It could be the reason why a deal works or a relationship works, or it doesn't, just because of that. And saying the same thing. So that's what's really crazy about this. You could literally want to say the exact same message, but go to someone face to face to say it versus just a text message or a phone call, and get the end result that you both wanted but you couldn't get to via text. So it's such a simple thing, but it's so profound. And it's so simple to send a text message, and we're all guilty of it now because it's just easier, especially when there's something difficult. It's easier to send a text message and avoid some confrontation, avoid some negative emotions. But what you're leaving on the table is so immense. Almost all of how we communicate is left on the table. If it's a text message or an email that just says what time are we gonna have dinner tonight? Okay, just something simple. But once it gets into deeper relationships or business negotiations or a deal or a problem with someone, that's where you really have to remember this principle, 55-38-7, where the majority of the communication is through the body language, it's through the presence of another human. For almost all of evolution, we weren't so evolved to speak so well. Most of it was just being around each other, grunts and low vocabulary. So there's so much of our physiology that evolved and is that things are going on that we're not aware of. There's energies, there's sense, there's little things that we pick up on. And I've had so much success in my personal life because it seems and professional life, because it seems millennials and Gen Z are much less likely to pick up the phone, or much less likely to go have a meeting with someone in person. We're way more comfortable with text messages and emails and stuff, and I think that's a huge weakness. I think that it's something that even older generations have become more accustomed to. So if you have the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to pick up a phone and call, but better yet, do you have time? I can come there. Even if it's somewhere far and inconvenient, there's a lot to be said about the character that it'll build for someone who's willing to go talk to someone face to face versus just a text message. And knowing that principle, it's when I learned that, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. I always knew there was things missed in in communication, but I didn't if it's digital or text or something. But I didn't realize it was that much. That almost all of the communication is lost in a text message. It's pretty crazy. The next time you have an emotionally charged situation in your life and you're about to send a text or an email or even comment on social media or something where you're just thinking about the words, remember that only 7% of what you're saying is what's actually getting through. You're leaving 93% of how humans communicate on the table. It's like, just for that reason alone, you should get in your car, drive somewhere, fly somewhere to see that person in person. Like our facial, so like the verbal part is the 7%. That's the part that everyone focuses on. Oh, what should I say? Like, how should I word it? How should I phrase it? But there's so much more to that. So, okay, verbal part, 7% gone. The 38%, the tone, there's pacing, there's tone, there's inflection. There's so much in your voice that changes the trajectory of the conversation. And then there's 55%, the majority isn't even how you say it or what you say. It's your body language, it's your gestures, it's your posture. It's so much to just your being. The conversation ends up going in a direction that you wouldn't even have thought often in person versus in a text. Like if we could do an A/B test, and you could have the same scenario with the same people and run that simulation 1,000 times, and have some people just write an email or send a text, and the other group takes a drive over and talks to people, and see that different outcomes in those situations. Because of the way we know people communicate, the chances of things going in the direction it should go or a better way are substantial in person, because you don't have to worry about like things being taken the wrong way as much. You don't have to worry about just not being heard. There's so much more that goes into that communication. Like in your personal life, it'll be super helpful, but professionally, I think there's a huge opportunity for people there professionally where maybe they get nervous like to go to their boss, or there's a negotiation and a deal and they're just accustomed to sending a text or an email and maybe picking up a phone, but most don't even do that. But even if you do that, maybe you pick up on some of that 38%, not all of it, but maybe most of it, with tone and inflection and pace of speaking and all these things that affect it, but you're still missing that big chunk. So even if it's not like so customary in whatever you're doing, and I usually do all my deals just in text and email, maybe a follow-up call, knowing this, like you could have a little bit of an advantage. You can be like, you know what? That hippie in his basement was like 55% is just body language. So I'm leaving half this problem on the table. I should go there. I mean what I say, and maybe they're not really feeling me because I've just been sending emails back and forth. Let me take a flight out there. Let me take a drive there. And I think this should give you confidence that if you're trying to do good things with this, like that you're going to have a positive impact by being around them, because they're going to see more of who you are versus that text or just calling or emails where they're missing a good chunk of you. So if you're not trying to do something bad and you're trying to do something good, I think it will work out for you way more often than not. I think it's such a they don't teach us that in school. It's like so weird. It's like they taught us all these things we didn't know. Like we should have had years of classes just on that. Like just on how to communicate, make some scenarios up, some negotiating, some sales, because as soon as you get out of high school and college, first thing you got to do is go for a job interview. Job interview is so much more about your confidence and your demeanor and how you communicate to the people in the interview and make them feel confident that you're the person for the job. That's why some people get jobs over other people. It's not, you have the same answer. Why do they choose someone? Sometimes they choose people with less technical qualifications. It's usually because they seem to have a little bit higher of emotional intelligence and maybe communicate better. So that is something that was lost on us in school. So now we have to learn on our own. So now you know that, and you could take that with you and see if you could solve some problems in your life by just going to talk to people in person. It could also be like a handicap that's being built into modern society because of the luxury of the smartphone. Like, think about it, 100 years ago, you had to do everything in person. 200, 300, 400, as you go back in time, like everything was in person. And then it was like letters took away a little bit. And phone calls took away a little bit. But even then, that wasn't so common. Like, I think even like 60 years ago, you would go to someone's house to go talk to them because the phone wasn't as prevalent. Then maybe in the 70s, 80s started to become more prevalent, the beeper. But it really wasn't until, I want to say, the late 90s, early 2000s, where cell phones started to pick up in popularity, and then this problem started to grow with email, with cell phones, text, and then over the last, say, 25 years, this has become a problem. So it's basically started with the millennials. But first thing is information. Like, now you know that most communication is nonverbal. So what you do with that is up to you. My recommendation is, when you have the opportunity, if you're a little rusty, I noticed this with my friends and family. I noticed it for years. Like, there was like some issue, they wouldn't want to make the phone call. They'd want me to, like, Matt, why don't you call? And I'm not that great at speaking. I'm not like the most charismatic, or like, I think for the most part, I would just like, screw it, I'll do it. And from not avoiding it, you just get better in those conversations as you do them more. But if you're not good at this and you feel intimidated to talk to people in person or on phone calls more, start with phone calls and just make more calls. Even make calls that aren't completely necessary, but maybe have a little bit of an emotional charge to them. Like, you can call a company, see if they have a product in stock that you want, and see if they give you a discount on it. Or call your insurance company, try to negotiate a rate. Things that, like, they don't really matter, but there's a little bit of a reward if you succeed in it. So maybe it'll make you a little nervous, and maybe just the thought of that makes you nervous. And if it does, that's perfect. That's something to start with. And then if you want to raise that bar a little bit and you're single, talking to someone in person, asking that girl out, asking that guy out, getting their number without being drunk, without being high, without being in a situation like that, just in regular public. You'd be surprised how much in this current state of affairs, this current world, that the opposite sex doesn't, or the sex that you're looking for, doesn't get approached. Like, you might think like, oh, that person will never go out on a date with me, that person will never give me their number, they're probably getting hounded. They're probably not. There's like a huge drop in dating. There's a big drop in like sex at a certain age, like where people used to start having sex, that's dropping. So there's actually a strong drive for it. The birth rate's dropping. You'd be surprised by just going up to that person you feel like that you like, or you want to talk to, that maybe you've been avoiding, and instead of looking up some cheesy pickup line or trying to like there's a, I don't know, trying to like have a trick where it works, you're better off just like almost having no plan. Like, doing something that's so simple, like just going, introducing yourself, or if they already know you, just giving them a compliment, and then just asking for their number, or they ask for like their Instagram or Snapchat now, and they might say, no, I have a boyfriend, or no, oh yeah, sure, and then like just like, thanks, and maybe we'll get like dinner sometime, or maybe we'll go out for a coffee, and like, you don't have to sit there and talk for an hour. If you want to talk and it's work, and you do, but like, something so basic. And if it doesn't work and you feel embarrassed, then you stuttered or you forgot what to say, it's all right. You took that action, and you're now playing, I'll call this in like the big leagues, because you were in person and you went outside of your comfort zone. So every rep that you do, and you try that again, and you'll start to feel this confidence building. You'll be like, oh damn, you know what, I could do, fuck, I shouldn't have said it like that. You know, next time, and there's a million different people in the world. That wasn't your soulmate. That was just one NPC, one avatar that was just on your screen at the time, that you got to use as an example, as a training opportunity. And that might sound a little cold, but look at it however you want to look at it. And the next time you see someone, but try to do it like soon, within a day or so, do it again. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel those things. Keep it simple, and remember, like, you're already in a league that's small, because a lot of people be too scared to do that. I can't show by example because I'm married now, but if I could go back, I would drink less. I wouldn't drink at all, and I would just be myself to more people more often. I think that was something that was lost on me when I was younger, and I hope that someone who has the opportunity now doesn't drink and just realizes that most of that communication is in your body language and the tone that you say things. So it's not as important as what you say. Like, just giving a small compliment. People don't get complimented that often. And just asking their name, giving your name, and asking for a number. Just so like, oh, well, I'll love to get to know you, and just get a number, and boom, you get it, or you don't get it, and you move on. And that's a little exercise to take with you from this. And if it's not the opposite sex, you could use something else. Like I use negotiating on the phone, or what else can you use? Asking for a raise at work. That's a great one. And you don't have to be worried about getting fired or something, because people asking for a raise, that's showing an ambitious person. So any good company isn't gonna, they're not gonna be offended by that. That's just gonna show that you're into your job, you want more out of them, maybe they'll ask for more out of you. So it's a good thing, and it's something that it'll raise those little feelings in your stomach. It'll make you nervous, but do it in person. Don't send an email. Don't call someone. Request a meeting in person. Prepare a little bit. Talk a little bit about what you've done and what your expectations are, and go for it. All right, 2 sets, last set. So I just thought of a little bonus tip. Say you do go in person to talk to someone, and say it's a little bit of an emotionally charged situation. You took that hippie's advice and you went and did it. And maybe it's a negotiation, or maybe it's an emotionally charged conversation with a loved one or something, right? And they ask a question, or something said that you don't have an answer for, or it's making you look bad that you don't know what to say. You don't have to lie or say or try to come up with something. You can just say, let me think about this for a little bit and let me get back to you tomorrow. Or, I don't have the answer right now, but as soon as I get home, I'll look into it and I'll give you an answer. Or some function of that. Don't feel like just because someone asked something or something is said that you have to have an answer right off the cuff. You don't have to. You've already showed a lot of prowess or a lot of courage, and you're already communicating better that you're in person. But especially in a negotiation, you don't have to give a decision right away. Say like you're negotiating for something and someone puts you on the spot and asks you right there for an answer. And now, like if it was on a text or an email or something, you'd have time to think about what you're gonna say, talk to a friend or a loved one, your wife, your husband, whatever, and come up with an answer. But now that you're in person, you're kind of on the spot, and you're like, damn, I shouldn't have been in person. I should have just texted him this. You could just say, listen, I have to think about it a little bit. I have to discuss it with X, Y, or Z, and I'll get back to you right away. Thanks for coming. Thanks for meeting me. This was really helpful. I appreciate it. I just have to. And some people who are better pressure salesmen or know some like handlers or rejection handlers, they can say things that will put you in a spot where maybe they kind of go around what you just said. These are rare people, but there are some of them out there. They might put a little pressure on you, and if you're uncomfortable, you might be like, oh, I already said that, and now he's still asking. Don't feel uncomfortable repeating the same thing. I notice that with people all the time. Like, they'll say something like, I just got to talk to my wife about it, and then the salesman or the person they're dealing with will skate around that and say, well, if your wife was here, what do you think she would say? And like, do you make the decisions? Or they'll say something that's like a trick to get you to feel like that didn't work. But you can just come right back to it. You can let them talk, and you say, I completely understand what you're saying and where you're coming from, and I appreciate the effort, but like, I just have to speak to X, Y, or Z, and I will get back to you. And that's usually enough. Just reiterating one more time is usually enough. And you don't have to say it rude, and you don't have to get mad, but you can use that in different situations in your life. Remember, you can put a boundary up, and when they try to knock your boundary down, you can just repeat it. Just stay there confidently, repeat it, and then just thank them for their time, and then go in your separate way, discuss it, and you can always get back to them with a call, go meet them again, or a text or something. But like, if you're ever in that situation where you feel like being in person, like you're not prepared, or like you kind of got put on the spot, you could always just like say, you know, let me just get back to you on that one thing. I need to look into it a little bit more, or I have to think about how I feel, and right now I don't feel comfortable giving you an answer on that right now. So I'll get back to you tonight or tomorrow. And if they don't love it, it's fine, but you won't put yourself in a position that you'll regret, because you won't say something that you didn't mean or give an answer that wasn't accurate. So just a little tip that you could use or not use. All right, let's finish this workout. Oh.